So the issue with this self-contained is this compressor keeps tripping on motor protector. Now they've done a lot of rewiring. They've had issues apparently with these modules, and when people do that, they'll go in and add this little ISO relay, and they'll rerun these safeties through this relay, and it'll trip a motor protector. Basically, if any of these safeties trip out in the circuit, we kept having it trip. And what was happening was yesterday we were having issues with it. It had we ended up having like I think it was a 20-degree split across our condenser. Now this self-contained has a water-cooled tube-in-tube condenser in it. Our condenser water is over here, and that strainer was completely plugged up. I wish I would have got some footage of it. I didn't take the time to do it yesterday, but it had a layer of mud about, I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch thick, coating that entire strainer. Now this building was one of them that had a major underground leak during the freeze. So we had actually 2 leaks we ended up finding, and it filled the pipe full of trash, and we've been trying to clean it as we go since then. It is currently August. That was February. We're still dealing with these issues from that freeze. Anyway, what that was doing though is it was causing the discharge to get so hot that it was tripping on discharge temp safety, because it was just overheating. We just replaced this compressor, by the way. Troubleshooting it over the phone with the technicians, initially I was wondering if those control modules had actually failed, because that's a really big struggle for these systems at this age. You know, we've actually two other units in this building, we've had to retrofit aftermarket controls on them because these boards have failed, and they don't support manufacture nothing, these boards anymore. They refurbish them, but the refurbished boards cost as much as a overhaul on the controls. So we just go aftermarket with it. We fixed that, right? So that got fixed. It looked much better yesterday. We have a lot of flashing in the sight glass. So we're trying to understand, you know, we're still flashing. We're still trying to cover the load. Now we do still have 2 circuits that are down on this unit. So we only have 2 running. You have to take that into consideration with the numbers we're getting. But we are at factory charge, R22. We need to determine why we're still flashing in the sight glass. That should have cleared. Now we were registering, I'm waiting on the tech to get back up here. He's working on another unit when I got here. But we were registering about 12 degrees of subcool, and we had about 28 degrees of superheat with 45 saturation. Condenser saturation was floating after we cleaned the strainer. It was up above 120. We got it down to about 110 was the last readings we took on it. We're still running a high saturation on the condenser, and you know, even circuit 3 over here, so these go 1, 3, 4, 2. Even circuit 3 was not as high as this circuit was, and I'm really wondering, you know, I'm questioning, do we have did we get a bunch of trash in our tubes? Maybe it's kind of where I'm going to. One of the tests that the technician did before I got here is I had him shut the whole system down, and we did a standing pressure test to saturation to verify any non-condensables. So we shut down the water flow, we shut down the air handler, killed the whole thing, let it sit for 30 minutes, and then we checked that saturation temperatures on both sides of the circuit to the room ambient temp, and we were less than 2 degrees on both circuits on our saturation to ambient. So that tells me that, I mean, I don't think we're actually dealing with a non-condensables issue. We pulled a really good vacuum, we held a strong pressure, but our temp drop right now across the dryer is less than 1 degree. So we're really starting to narrow down what it is. Alright, let's get in here. There, you got that cracked. So we're still, so we're back up to 120 saturation. And let's get this plugged in. Got your meter. Now, I had a question on this the other day. You can get these through a supply house or Amazon. This is a Fluke K-type adapter. You can plug any K-type thermistor into it. So just so you know, if anybody's looking for those, just let me know. I can get you a link to one. Really, really handy. But your meter has to be able to read temperature on the K. So we got 125. Okay, so we don't have any subcooling right now. So we have dramatically changed. Now I'm taking that after the dryer. Where were you reading? Were you reading it there where I'm at? Or where were you reading it? Down there?
Right there.
Oh. You understand? Okay, you can't do that. So the reason you can't check it here is because you've got multiple layers of copper.
I got you.
Yeah. That's probably why you saw subcooling.
I got you.
Because that copper there is cooler. So we got 125 there. We'll check it here, we'll compare it. Okay, well it's not as dramatic as I thought it'd be. So let's take that as a thing though. So we got 123 at that joint. We'll move back to straight copper here. Okay, so we don't have subcool. We had the factory charge. Let's find out what our superheat's doing. Where were you checking superheat? Tim.
Right here.
Okay. About 56. So we got about 10 degrees. That's right. So TXV's got enough charge to do its job. We're doing good there. We don't have any flashing on the oil sight glass. So we definitely don't, we're not slugging back or anything. Okay, so we're good there. This is pretty interesting. And y'all did not remove any refrigerant. Nope. TXV's fine. That's not a problem. We don't have our subcooling. We're running a really high condenser. Okay, here we go. So we're significantly off from that to our temp. Okay, so our next check, we need to verify our approach temperature. So, do you know condenser approach? Where to check that? Okay, that's perfectly fine. So we need to see our water's coming in over here. So on this back side, we need a screwdriver. So we need this panel right here open. How we were able to clean it is we just isolated this, bled the pressure off, and it was just absolute black grit just pouring out of this thing. What we need to do is, each of these is a circuit, okay? So we need to see circuit 2 is this one. This is where the refrigerant dumps in, and this is where the water is. We need to get the clamp right here. And what we're gonna be doing, because this is our leaving water. Yeah, you wanna check your leaving water side. I'm gonna try to get as far from that refrigerant pipe as possible. That's the best we can do there. And we're gonna compare this temperature to our saturation on the refrigerant. They should not be more than about 10 degrees. Okay, on these particular types of heat exchangers, it's about 10 degrees. Anything more than that, all that mud we cleaned out of the strainer got in these tubes, they're gonna have to be brushed. So, and you brush those by that end panel down there. So you'll take that panel off. Each of those rows will have a little brass hex head cap for the O-ring. You take those out, that's your brushing point. So that's why we don't have subcool, and that's also why the condenser head pressure is so high. So this is a continuation of that. So next step is we need to get the brush machine. These are, well, we can measure this, but I think that's a 3/4. So we need 3/4 brushes. We might as well go ahead and do them all. Now the tricky part is the drainage. And because you'll need a water hose ran to the brush machine. And then we need to figure something out to catch the water as we brush it.
I got you.
Follow me?
Yep.
So, what I've done in the past, it may not work here, but what I've done in the past is we've been able to get some drain pans and either fit some drain pans in there or take some heavy rubber or something and kind of take some big duct ties and tie it around the bundle and have it drain out to a pan. And you'll either need to pipe that over to the main drain in the floor or have somebody with a shop vac
Right behind you.
Exactly. The worst case scenario, one of the things we had to do at one property is try to use, because I think that's got a metal bottom. Yeah, it does. Try to take some silicone and basically turn that into a drain pan.
I got you.
So you go through, seal it all up, and then just have somebody with a shop bag. It's not going to be a very easy process. Anything above 10, something is happening. Either it's a water flow issue or it's a heat transfer issue. We fixed the water flow yesterday. Now we have a heat transfer problem. Gonna wrap this call up here, guys. Really appreciate it. This one's gonna turn out fine. You know, we're still waiting on the customer to figure out what they want to do and provide approvals, and it's just part of the game. You know, we always struggle with the fact that we find these things and we just get to that point, and then it takes them weeks to decide to spend the money to actually do something about it. This video was actually shot a couple of weeks ago, and we still have yet to get an approval to go in after hours, punch those tubes, and those compressors have been running like that ever since then. And it's just the nature of the beast. It's all we can do. Anyway, MTT guys, make time for your family, make time for your spouse, for your kids. I didn't mention it in the last video, and I was kind of curious to see who would all notice, and actually some people did. So it actually makes me really excited that it's something that enough people have really grabbed onto that it matters to you that wasn't there. So I really appreciate y'all taking that to heart. You know, I've talked about it before. You know, HVACR videos, and you know, him and his wife Chris, they're really doing a lot to try to step in and be a part of that process and be a part of that family side of this trade and what we're doing. It's really incredible to see. It's really encouraging to see all of us coming together in that way and being a part of this. Anyway, appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good one.